Okay, well, why don't you turn with me to Matthew's Gospel, chapter 11, verse 28, and this is a verse I've started with a lot. I seem to be attracted to this, and I keep finding new things about it. And guys, if you want to write down on a piece of paper the title, usually I don't give you a title for the message, just leave you on your own, but when Phil puts this up, here's the title for it. Jesus evidently didn't understand Christianity. That's the title. Now, of course, that's a little bit facetious. It's, of course, we who don't understand Christianity, but this is a thought that when I asked earlier, anybody have any thoughts or anything you'd like to share, this is a thought I had during the week, just kind of popped into my mind, this verse of Scripture, and I'll just read it to you first, and I'll tell you what I mean. Jesus says, "Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I'll give you rest." Now, why does he use the word rest there? Because, this is where I get the conclusion that he evidently doesn't understand Christianity, because if you go into most Christian bookstores or talk to most Christians, rest is not the word they're going to use. What most Christians are going to say is it's work. It's hard work being Christian. It's hard. And I've had people just tell me that. It's hard work. And most books in the Christian bookstores are how to do it. You know, what you need to do and all the different things you need to do and different methods and different plans and different strategies to employ to live the Christian life. If you go on reading here, not only does he use the word rest here, he says, "Take my yoke upon you and learn of me, for I am meek and lowly in heart, and you'll find rest for your souls. My yoke is easy, and my burden is light." Now, not only does he say it's rest, but he says it's easy and it's light. And I'll tell you, I'd like to just walk into a bookstore sometime and see a book on display in the window that says it's easy and it's light. But see, I shouldn't blame the Christian bookstores because everybody's trying to be helpful. But I'm just going to talk about people that I've talked to when I have conversations with people. They don't seem to have the idea that it's easy and that it's light. Go back to verse 28 for a second. I think here's one key to it. He says, verse 28 says, "Come unto me." Did you notice that? "Come unto me, and I will give you rest." I think the idea that's in most people's mind when they don't see the Christian life as rest, and when they say it's hard and it's work, they haven't got into their minds the idea that he says, "Come to me." What most people think is that Jesus is off somewhere else, far away, and we're supposed to imitate him. And so if you think that he's off somewhere far away watching you, keeping an eye on you and just kind of assessing your performance, and your job is to imitate him, then I would agree that's going to be pretty hard, because listen, he's perfect. He's the Son of God. He's perfect, sinless, and pure. And if you think that what this is all about is we're supposed to imitate him, and there's always going to be some, and I agree though, he would be a good, if you're going to choose someone to imitate, he'd be the best one to imitate. But did you notice, now I'm just asking for, just think about this. Notice he didn't say, "Imitate me," did he? Did he say that? No. But although he's worthy of imitation, and I understand how people think that, and this goes back years and years and years, the imitation of Christ. But he did not say, "Imitate me." He said, "Come to me." When he called his disciples, he didn't find these men, and he said, he didn't find those men, those fishermen in Matthew, tax collector, all these different men. He didn't say, "Listen, guys, you need to imitate me." He says, "Follow me." Right. Didn't he say that? Same thing. With his disciples, he said, "Follow me, and I will make you," Jesus said. Now, when we talk about making in relation to a human being, see, I might try to make some adjustments in my life or make some little changes, but I can't make myself. I can't recreate myself. That's beyond my capacity. And I think where the frustration and the struggle in the Christian life comes in is people are trying to make themselves be different than they think they are, rather than just simply doing what he said. "Come to me and I will make you," he said to his disciples, fishers of men. But I like the thought, "Come to me," because he is the creator, and God is the creator, and of course they're all working together on this thing. Paul says that the worlds were created through Christ. He has the creative capacity to make us different. Sometimes I use this analogy. If you had a tree that produced bad fruit, undesirable fruit, you could say, "Boy, that tree really embarrasses me. It's producing all this bad fruit." And what I think I'll do is I'm going to go around that tree and get a ladder, and I'm going to try to pull off all that bad fruit before anybody notices. And I'm going to pull all that bad fruit away, and then I've got a tree with no fruit, and so I'm going to glue good fruit on in its place, because I don't want anybody to notice. Now listen, that's a two-part strategy. Just the part about pulling off all the bad fruit, that's going to be a challenge. Because once you've got all the way around, there's some more coming up on the other side. You get the analogy I'm making? And then, even if you could, it's a big tree, let's say, get all that bad fruit off before anybody notices. See, it's all that we don't want to be embarrassed. Get all that bad fruit off, and then glue with your glue gun. You know, you could hot glue, get some wax fruit. They make some pretty good imitation fruit now. If you go into Hobby Lobby, some of those places, it's pretty convincing. You almost want to eat some of that. It looks pretty good. Then you could glue some really pretty good fruit on with the glue gun. But you know what? Even if you could do all of that, and that would be work, wouldn't you agree? Oh, brother, think about it. Out there, and it's like, it's almost a never-ending task, because once you've, like, as I said, that bad fruit's trying to keep popping up again. Once you try to get rid of it and glue the good fruit, even if you could be successful in it, you know what you've got? A phony tree. You've got something artificial and phony, because we don't have the capacity. See, we can only deal with the outsides. We can't change the nature of what it is on the inside. But Jesus can change the nature of who we are and what we are on the inside, and that's what He does. And that's why He says, in this invitation, this beautiful invitation, come unto me. See, that's all He asks us to do. Come unto me, because, see, He is the only one that's got the capacity to give to us and to deal with us and to do a work in us that really needs to be done. Again, the misconception is that we think the Christian life is about imitating Him, though I agree. He's worthy of imitation, and He is an admirable person, worthy of imitation, but He doesn't say it's going to be done by imitating. He says, come to me, and I will give you rest. Now, think about this word rest. Whatever you think it is, whatever concept you have, it's not work. It's not a struggle. It's not something that is going to cause you aggravation and frustration. And then He says it's easy and it's light. I remember, and let me get more specific about what I think people think the work is. I remember one time, and I allude to all these little experiences I've had and interactions with people, and at the time it feels like, boy, I don't have time for all that. But it's valuable to me now. It gave me a lot of insight into how people think. I was going to a Promise Keepers meeting one time, and all these men would meet together. Of course, Promise Keepers is a kind of a non-denominational group, and men from all different churches and all different backgrounds and all different kinds of thinking about things. And I came to this meeting, and we were sitting around, greeting each other and saying hi and everything. And so I said to this one particular man, real friendly, like, hello, brother, how are you doing? Just real cheerful, I try to be cheerful, shook hands with him. How are you doing? I'm real happy, and friendly, smiling like this. And he said to me, and this is his response. I said, hello, brother, how are you doing? He said, oh, kind of like that. It's a funny sound. It reminded me of like the sound you might hear in a haunted house. Oh, a ghostly sound. But that's right. That's the sound he made. I said, "How are you doing?" He said, "Oh, it's hard." He kind of had that moany sound in his voice, like struggling under a heavy burden. Like you might do if you're carrying a heavy weight. Oh, like that's how he sounded. Oh, he said, "It's hard. It's hard." He said, "This is a greeting. I'm just saying hello." That's how he said hello to me. Oh, he said, "It's hard to crucify this old flesh." That's what he said. Well, do you know what he means by that? Of course you do. We hear that a lot in church circles. And I think and let me be specific. Let me just be blunt and plain and specific. Instead of just beating around the bush and being generic. What most Christians think the work is to crucify themselves. Or to crucify, as this man said, the old flesh. Or that is to say, to get rid of the bad habits or the bad proclivities or the things we recognize in ourselves, just like when I use the analogy of the tree with the bad fruit, trying to get rid of those bad things in our lives that we look at. Again, did you notice that Jesus didn't say anything about that? He didn't say you need to get yourself cleaned up, you need to purify yourself, you need to get rid of some things. All He said is, come to me. And then He says, you that labor and are heavy laden. See, this man who said, oh, it's hard, he was carrying a burden. The reason he made that moaning sound was he was moaning under the burden of the weight he was carrying, of what in his mind, his requirement, or what was expected of him in his mind was to crucify the old flesh. Now, did you know, now I'm going to shock you perhaps now because we're so accustomed to hearing these words and they sort of resonate with us in some part of our being. There is something in us, and I think it has to do with pride. There's something in us that wants to do it ourselves. You know, and we hear these words, you need to crucify the flesh. And